Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Rex Rogosh, and let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Florida GOP rep nearly died from abortion ban, still defends it and blames Democrats for it. A Republican Congresswoman from Florida is making headlines after revealing she nearly died from a pregnancy complication, yet still defends the state's extreme abortion ban. In May 2024, just as Florida's 6-week abortion ban took effect, Congresswoman Kat Cammack rushed to the emergency room. Doctors told her she had a life-threatening ectopic pregnancy where a fertilized egg implants outside the uterus and cannot survive. If left untreated, it could rupture and cause internal bleeding, even death. The safest option was to shoot a shot of methotrexate to dissolve the pregnancy. But because methotrexate can also be used for abortions, Florida doctors hesitated, afraid of legal consequences under the new law. Cammack spent hours in the AR showing staff the law on her phone and even tried to call the governor. Eventually, doctors agreed to give her the shot. But despite the ordeal, Cammack says she doesn't blame the law. Instead, she blames Democrats. She told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "It was absolute fear-mongering at its worst. There will be some comments like, well, thank God we have abortion services, even though what I went through wasn't an abortion," end quote. While technically not classified as an abortion, ectopic pregnancies are still treated with the same medicines and procedures that have become restricted in abortion bans across the country. At least 5 women have died in states with similar bans after being denied treatment for miscarriages or complications. Others, like in Texas, have lost their fertility after being turned away. Still, Cammack says she opposes abortion rights, but adds, quote, "I would stand with any woman, Republican or Democrat, and fight for them to be able to get care in a situation where they are experiencing a miscarriage and an ectopic pregnancy," end quote. Florida remains one of the strictest states in the nation on abortion access, penalizing doctors with prison time and fines. This story raises deeper concerns, not only about reproductive rights, but about the growing political trend of ignoring lived experience in favor of ideology. So this, again, is someone manipulating the law to benefit themselves. We've had this conversation about other laws and what our famous Republican people in government, I can't even call them, representatives, people in government are, doing. They're saying one thing, and then when, the situation happens to them, they're like, oh, but that's not what the law says. We keep talking about, fertilized egg equals human being. So if you're getting rid of it, that equals abortion. But, now all of a sudden she's in a terrible predicament. And I would never wish that on anybody to have to, to go through that and have to make the decision, or have your doctors, which we've been saying, make a decision to save your health. And now you're fighting for your life and going, I'm going to call the governor. Well, what about that woman who doesn't have that option, who is, coming in off the streets? The doctors are going to give her the same hesitation, and she's not going to be, the doctors are going to go, well, the law reads. So, it infuriates me that they bend the law to their whim when it sees fit.
I think there are 3 parts of this story. In a way, I agree with the Congresswoman that it's the Democrats' fault, in the way that we had the most unprecedented Supreme Court ruling that was leaked months ahead of time while the Democrats controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House. They got advanced warning that there was going to be this attempt to repeal Roe v. Wade. They had a year and a half before they lost power. They didn't do it. So I think, yes, in a way, it is their fault, madam, that they allowed you to pass this sort of law to begin with. But I'll be honest, I am uncomfortable with how the doctors handled it, because the law is a terrible law. It shouldn't exist. It does technically say, for this exact situation, it's exempt and you need to perform it. And I was always taught that medicine is something that, if it's the difference between doing the right thing and saving a life and going to jail, you do the right thing and save a life as a doctor. And to see doctors continuously say, no, we're going to put our comfort as one of the highest paid professions in the country ahead of women's lives. And I have not seen them do much to try and prevent these sort of laws from being passed. The American Medical Association has been great at preventing universal health care for a century, but they can't keep laws like this from happening. Shame on all of them. And quite frankly, we feel like, well, are you going to hit the pro-life Congresswoman? Of course, the most despicable human beings I've ever met on this earth are pro-life activists. They are awful. When I used to work at Media Matters, we were a big open office, the people next to me were the ones monitoring abortion issues. The hate mail, the vitriol that people would send to them, it's a different level that I haven't seen on any other issue. These people have killed doctors. They are not good people. I don't honestly care if this woman and her supporters live or die. They're such awful human beings. So that's my thoughts.
I mean, so I don't disagree with you on a couple of these, on a couple of things. Unfortunately, we do live in a very litigious world, and more so litigious country. So I do understand, having friends who are doctors, and have had these conversations with them. They are put in a huge kind of quandary, because it's not just them. It's the people, it's the hospital they work for. It's the board of trustees that's above the hospital. So unfortunately, there's too many layers there to just say, okay, doctor, you need to do the right thing, because it's not just putting the doctor at risk, it's putting the hospital at risk, and it's putting the licenses of many people at risk. So if they risk that, then they're risking the health care for everybody that walks through the door, because they're no longer there. It's not to say that it's right or wrong. It's to say that it is a difficult position. What I have a problem with is that we have a situation where these laws are written, yes, with exclusions, but they're still vague. And any lawyer can twist it and turn it. And we have a woman who has gone in there, who has the power and the means to call somebody to say, Daddy, I want this golden egg now, right? Like the rule doesn't apply to me. And that's what I have a problem with. I don't have a problem necessarily with the doctor pausing and going, we need to speak with our legal counsel about this, because the rule is very vague.
No, I think most Americans agree with you.
Yeah.
I would just reminding people, there's a little bit more there, and we shouldn't just give doctors a pass. But what do you think about this, Alex?
No, I'll piggyback on that idea too. I think it's crazy because she's twisting a narrative that's clearly been fear-mongering from the Republican side. You have these pressures that are coming from the top, exactly like Rex is saying, where they come in and, it started with the rollbacks on DEI. It started with everything. And then you have these corporations and these companies that follow because they're so afraid of it affecting their profit. So one, you have these, for-profit organizations like the health organization that we should have, things should be better. But then, just like you said, it's so terrible that these doctors took an oath to help and took, that you went through this to help people. It shouldn't just be about the profit, and it shouldn't be this complicated, and it shouldn't take somebody calling the governor of a state to get a doctor to change what they're doing. But then now to change it onto something that this woman actually said was that people are going to say that thank God for abortion services, but it's not that. But it's true. These studies, these medicines, these chemicals wouldn't have ever come about if it wasn't for funding into abortion studies and everything.
She had an abortion.
Yes.
Perfectly fine to call it abortion. There's nothing wrong with one of them.
Agreed.
But the other thing I'll just say on the whole system, when dealing with fascism and awful bigotry and abuse, because trying to prevent a woman from having an abortion is a form of violence. Let's just be perfectly clear on it. The only way we fight it sometimes is as individuals we say no. Whether it being a teacher saying, no, I will not dead name a trans kid, send me to jail, fire me, whatever. You have to take that stand. If the doctor to save a life, you have to save the life. If we don't do that, we're no better than the Nazis who are putting these laws into place. Agreed.
It is going to take somebody to stand up and say this is enough. The problem is when and who, and I think that's the biggest kind of conundrum here is, do I make the stand and risk everything that I have to help the masses, or do I kind of straddle the line and try to make the best decision? And unfortunately, we are in a position right now that we should be taking a stand. I just don't see it happen.
We're way past the point of maybe we should now we're at the if you don't take a stand, you should be put in with the rest of them when they go to Nuremberg, sort of thing. They're a collaborator at that point, and that's the only way that we're going to get past all this stuff at this point. Unfortunately, I'm not exactly in a situation where I'm at risk of going to jail anytime soon. I'm not doing any medicine, but yeah, I think more of us has to start saying, it's time. If it's not now, then when are we going to say no?
Absolutely. Well, that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.